trying to find jobs for projects, I suppose. Well, I don't do much projects, I only do customer work. I do some projects for myself, but I know a lot of you guys keep busy with showing things in videos of projects that you're working on. But I thought this is sort of maybe a worthy project / job, I suppose. A customer brought this in. It's a stainless steel water tank, actually, from a motorhome. So it's been custom made to suit his bus, and it's had bits and pieces added onto it. Well, one big tank, and then it's had another bigger tank added onto the bottom. You might be able to see the flanges down the bottom there. He wanted me to get work out the amount of volume that's in it. He came with a figure of 400 litres. I don't know how he came to that, unless my maths are way off, but I've measured the whole thing, and I've come up with 200 and pretty much exactly 275 litres. I don't know where the 400 litres comes from, but 400 litres is a fair bit of area, and I think about two 44-gallon drums or 205 litre drums that you get the oil and hydraulic oil and different things in. I think that's a fair bit of area. Two of those, but this doesn't look like two of them. So just putting my hand on there to give a bit of a scale of it. So I'm pretty sure my measurement's right. But I didn't bring you here for a math lesson, but I was just curious myself to see what it actually worked out to and how much has been added on from the original tank, as you can probably see. Just giving you a bit of a look over it for whatever reason, probably just adding to the links of the video. The original size of the tank you can sort of see here, and then it's had this other piece added on where these wings are, and this piece it's about 40 mil wide. I'm losing my light now. Coming over here with another wing on the other side. So I can imagine a bit of dicking around to get that measured in, but whoever had to add that on had a decent job to do. So that's added about another, I think from my maths, I think I've got about an extra 50, just trying to think now, 55 litres from this wing and this section on here, tacked onto the main tank, which the main tank I think was around about 226 litres. So this main tank, which was the original, so you've added an extra 55 litres, which I guess is all right. But as I say, I don't know how much you paid for that extra 55 litres. But anyway, the 55 litres is 55 litres, and it's, as I say, it's from Motorhome, so it's probably definitely worth adding on that bit more to give you that extra 55 litres of water capacity. So all I've got to do is, well, start off as a small job, and then as he started talking, it got bigger and bigger, as it always does with customer jobs. First I got the phone call about was fixing a couple of possible leaks. So it seems to have a baffle inside here. So there's two baffles inside here to catch to stop it, basically to stop the fluid from moving backwards and forwards in the tank, so you get slushing inside the tank, because obviously you get a lot of weight transfer inside and a lot of splashing going on. So whoever's made this has forward thought about that. They put baffles inside here, and apparently it's leaking here, and it might be leaking here, but he asked me to take this off. So this is a filler that he's put on. So what's called kneaded. So it's a 2-pack thing that you just roll up in your fingers and you just stick it on basically like chewing gum. So and it goes rock hard. So just got to get that off, clean these up, roll that up. So that was the first part of the job. Then he brought me around the other side. I'll just grab the other part of the puzzle. So he's got a breather pipe down the bottom here. I think this is a filler pipe here. He's got this vent pipe here, so it doesn't pressurise. I thought he had fuel in it when he was talking, but it's just a water. So I find out later it's an actual water tank. So I've got this 3/8 BSP socket to weld on. I'll probably cut it in half and just weld half of it on there. Just wants to put a fitting on there and run it out to a rubber hose. And then I'll have to pause you for the next part of it. So I suppose I've got you on the top side of the tank now. So where I was showing was the bottom, and this is the top, the largest section now. So this is the part that was added on. You can see the brake that's folded in here to stiffen this panel, and over time it's collapsed. And what he had a plan was, well, what the customer wanted me to do was weld 2 straps. So I'll probably just get the pieces of material, give you an example of what I mean. He wanted me to weld 2 straps on here, okay? So hopefully the tank won't fall over on me. can see possibly the gap in there. There's probably a good, with that white fur on there, it's a bit hard to see, but there's probably a good, 35mm, 1.5 of space there. And what the customer said was I thought, well, how am I going to straighten that? And I think, well, I can get in from the other side and maybe push it out. But he wanted me to weld those flat bars across there to keep it stiff after I straightened. So his thought was to pressurise the whole tank with compressed air, and then, I'll just put that down, pressurise the whole tank, and then weld those straps across. So I'm not really that enthusiastic about pressurising the whole tank to try and pop that panel and then weld on it. With pressure inside there and you start welding on it, obviously it'll start multiplying with the heat, and then I'll probably it'll finish up blowing out on me or something like that anyway. But I'll be able to keep the heat low, but there's always that risk of it blowing out on you when you're adding heat to it, especially with pressure behind it. You're just asking for trouble. And it's not that thick a material. I'm guessing it's about maybe 1.2 by the sounds of it. I'm assuming it's probably 316 being a water tank. So my job is to get this fur off first, and then we'll just get this tank sitting back down. I'll just pause you for a second. I'll show you my idea what I want to do. And so what my thought is, I'm going to cut a slot in here, okay, cut through this area here, okay, and I'm going to put a piece of flat bar from here down to the bottom of the tank. I'll cut a slot in the other side of the tank, and then lift the tank up, make that panel straight or above the surface where it was when it had the brake folded in there, and then weld that section in. What I did have thoughts of originally was to be able to bring the flat bar up against this here, drill a hole through here, put a thread in the flat bar, and then just pull it over with a bolt, and then drill 2 holes in here and just plug weld it. But the problem with that is there's still a gap around each side of the flat bar. So I'm not too sure if it's drinking water, I'm assuming not, but it might start getting bugs growing underneath that strap over time, so I'd rather go away from that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up on that hard edge, so it's basically sitting hard on that edge, but inside. So bring you around to the end so you understand what I mean. So I'm going to come through here, so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. So coming through, hitting that edge there, and cutting a slot in there, and coming in and welding across the end of that. So that's my thoughts at the moment. I can pull the tank out mechanically, and then I can weld that across, cut that just above the surface, put a few good welds on there, clean it off to the height, weld it, and then clean it up, and then that's finished then. So that's what I'm sort of bringing you along on. So we'll see how we go for this video. Next part of the puzzle for the water tank. So I've measured the centre, so I found the centre mark. Pretty simple maths, I don't need to show you this, but I just thought I'd add it in the video anyway. Just mark 25mm of each side. 50mm flat bar we'll be using, 50 by 5. And that's the width of it there. So what I'll do is I'll drill a hole from each side, okay? And then I'm not sure if I'll drill or try and cut it out with the grinder. You know how the grinder goes, it always cuts the hole too big, but I'll work out what I'm going to do there. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's not like I'm doing this sort of work on water tanks for motorhomes that often, so I'm a bit clueless on this one. I'm going to do this one, so it's not something I do very often. So I'll sort of find my way as I'm going, and shooting a video about it probably doesn't help much either. But I'll get the holes drilled, and then I'll probably bring you back along the way. I'll keep going with this exciting job. As you can see, I've drilled a series of holes along there. I did think about, as I mentioned earlier, about cutting it with the grinder, but I opted out of that because I've already started drilling the holes. I'll just continue along. The other thing I like about drilling the holes over grinding is I don't get grinding dust inside the tank. It is an inox wheel, so there's no iron, it's an iron-free wheel, but still the dust or powder that builds up inside will get in little corners and things like that. I've kept it just inside the 50mm mark, so it'll be just basically burning onto the edge of the flat bar. We will get a bit of the black fur, which is common with stainless steel that isn't purged, and I won't be purging it because these welds here, I've had a look inside with the camera, I was curious. This tank hasn't been purged anyway. It is a water tank, but I'm not going to purge 50 mil of weld when you've got welds that are 900 mil long that haven't been purged, so it seems pretty pointless. I don't think the customer will want to pay for me to purchase a 300 litre tank. I'll do it if need to, but in the case of this, they're not purged anyway, so I'm going to work around that, and I don't think of it as being a problem anyway, so we're going to skip around the purge for those who are curious about am I going to purge. No, I'm not. So we'll probably open this up with a tungsten burr now, trying to keep the amount of dust down to a minimum. So I've got a small tungsten burr, so we'll get in there and open this up, and then we'll get round the other side. We'll cut the slot on the top, and we'll cut the flat bar and keep going with it. Another exciting chapter in this video. A little bit of noise from outside because I've got the door open. It's such a beautiful day, so definitely have the door open for that. I'll close it when we start welding, of course. But I've cut this, opened up the slot as you can see, and we're not looking for a dead straight line. All we want to do is just get an opening where we can get a reasonable weld onto the actual hard end, or say the actual end of the flat bar. Okay, so we're just going to butt into that from the opposite side, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut the same, the slightly larger slot on the other side, which we'll get to further into the video. Just bring it around to the end to show you how I worked that out. I've measured this for square, measured this for square, so they're pretty good within a mil. Measured distance in from here to here, from here to here, and we finish up a measurement of 419, and on the other side we've got 420. So whoever's made it's definitely kept it running pretty well spot on. It is slightly out, being stainless. It does walk around a little bit, so it's hard to get a dead straight edge. It's not like a machined edge where you off a machine. It is fabricated, and the panel is pretty warped, so it is hard to get it exact, but we'll be within the range anyway. And all we're really after is to get this bit of flat bar as close to 90 degrees as possible. We're not going to be using it for anything else other than to support that panel above, which is facing down now, which will be the top in future. So that panel when we had the furniture on top, for those who might be wondering what I'm talking about. So we'll keep going with it, get it flipped over, and we'll keep going. I skipped over a little bit of it because I didn't want to drag it on for too long. I didn't want to show tacking a nut onto a piece of stainless, but maybe we can catch up to that in another video. So all I did was just stainless steel and under there, just tacked it on in 6 corners, just a little hot tack. So just come in, sit torch on there, low amps, and then hit it hard, bang, just like a spot weld. So we got that on 6 corners to make sure it didn't pop off. And as you can see, we've got plenty of lift there. So before we had 35 mil or thereabouts, an inch and a half of dish. Now we've got 45 mil of old parallels that I bought at a machinery auction that I use for welding. Just got those sitting under a piece of SHS. I normally say RHS. Most people know what I'm talking about in Australia, but people get upset in the US when I call square material RHS. But anyway, we just call it RHS in Australia. Anyway, people get a bit finicky anyway about politically correct. But anyway, you can see how much lift's in there now. So that's how that was. Well, I suppose maybe not as far as that is now. I could maybe come back a little bit, but I won't though, because it's actually took me a little bit of effort to actually get it to pop out that far. So I've marked on the little stick that I'm going to use to weld in. So there's my 50 by 5. Okay, so on the line there, you can just see there. Okay, so the height of the other side. You're over showing you things again. And the other side, just for the evidence, it says. Okay, so that's sitting on that edge from basically, I suppose you could say, underneath the tank now, because we're on the top now, and that's sitting there on its own, and we're within about probably, I don't know, see how close that is. I won't worry about measuring it, but you can see how close that is. So we've got the right height as far as off that flat edge. How straight that is, I don't know, but that's good enough for what the customer needs. He just wants this panel, I suppose, back to how it was, and welding that strap across as he recommended, was never going to work anyway, because we've already got that much right. You can see how much dip there is from left to right. There's welding a piece of flat bar across there, but that should be a bit of a nuisance because I've got to try and come up to here, come across flat, and then back down on the angle. I don't have a folder, and I don't have a use for a folder. I'm a machine shop, not a sheet metal shop, so anything that I need folder, I'm going to get my sheet metal guy to do. But for a little job like this, just not worth it. And he wants this job back, well, pretty much ASAP, a couple of days anyway. I did finish up cutting these with the grinder. The customer came back when I was in between filming and seeing how things were going, dropping off something else to get done. And I was just talking to him about that, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not worried about that. Just cut that with the grinder. Don't make too much trouble for yourself." And so I've cut these with the grinder to make it a bit easier. I was being a bit finicky on the other side anyway, but yeah, I just thought that might have been an ideal thing because the customer wasn't here and he was here, and I just went through what was going on and said, "Don't worry about it, I'm okay to wash that out, that's fine. Thanks for concerning yourself with it, but it's not a concern." So that's okay to get the feedback from the customer, that's okay. Now, next thing to do is just cut these off to the right height, one for the left, one for the right, and tuck them into place and weld them up. And I suppose I'll bring you back maybe towards the end of it. I won't drag it up for too long, that's probably enough for dragging on, and I'll talk to you soon. Filming this in chapters for me, but it's going to look like one video for you, so we're just wind it up now and just show you what's been done. There's probably not a lot you can really see. The panel on the top here is not great. I mean, it's in a basic shape. I can't get inside and really push it out because the whole thing's sealed up, so it's just pushing it back out as best as I could, as I showed you earlier in the video. This whole panel's been fully welded all the way around originally. I think it was just easier to fabricate it that way, so a ton of welding, and unfortunately it's obviously buckled the panel or warped the panel everywhere, so that amount of heat going into it, you're definitely going to warp a panel that size. So the welds are done there, so not much to show you there anyway. The socket in there, as I've said, the 3/8 VSP socket, and there's that fill point from earlier in the video. The weld underneath there, so where that flat bar comes in, you can't really see much on this side, but I'll show you around the other side. So that's welded in that side, and we're around the other side of the tank. And I've got a patch down there. Well, it's actually where the baffle is, so I'm not too sure what happened there. When I was welding over it, it kept getting tiny little holes, so rather than trying to fill up tiny little holes, it seemed to keep coming up in the metal. I think it's maybe pennowed through from when they welded the baffle in. When I tried to weld over, it was just frying up, so I just opted to put that patch on there. And the weld above it as well that I showed you, where it had that kneaded putty that I was saying about earlier. So I've just come along and welded that up. It's finished up being bigger than I thought. It was just a couple of little holes at first were coming up, and then it just kept growing and growing, so I had to finish up with about nearly a 50-60 mil long weld there. And that's that weld on that coming through. You can see a bit better where the 50x5 comes through, so it's sitting on this hard edge with that flat bar above, so you can see, so it's going back up to the top. So now it's come out all right anyway. I mean, there's nothing flash, but it's as I say, there's a fair bit of welding on this tank. It's pretty much welded all the way around, so you can see the weld on there. Nearly every panel's welded. There's hardly any folding in it at all, except for here and here. Everything else is welded, even down this edge here. So it's had a ton of welding done on it. So, geez, I don't know how many hours of welding been put into this tank. I wouldn't like to price this tank and have the customer tell me too much, because yeah, it's definitely a huge amount of work to make it. As you can imagine, just the stainless alone. And then I've got a guy welding it. You'd probably say, I don't know, I'd guesstimate to be at least a whole day to weld it, I'd be guessing. So by the time you tack it up and weld it, so there's a huge amount of work in it, but obviously it's been done in at 2 different times. You know, that extra tank's been welded onto the original tank. So, but that'll do for this video. Just thought I'd bring you back and just trying to get a video out for you guys, that just trying to show you jobs that I do, or projects I suppose as you guys like to do. But as I said earlier, I don't do projects, I just do jobs for customers. So if I think of anything that I'm doing, I'll try and include it in the video. Otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Okay, bye bye for now.